Welcome, traveler. Imagine the vast Atlantic stretching endlessly before you, sails glinting in the morning sun. In 1492, Columbus set forth with 3 ships seeking a new route to Asia. Instead, he reached the Caribbean, meeting the people, unknowingly beginning a journey that would change the world forever. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer who was trying to find a faster route to Asia. In 1492, he set sail west across the Atlantic Ocean and ended up in the Caribbean rather than Asia. So why did he do this? Well, it's actually because of Spain. You see, back in the day, Spain was ruled by Ferdinand and Isabella. They were king and queen from 1469 until Ferdinand's death in 1516, and they were really into exploring and expanding their empire. Christopher Columbus went to them with his idea of sailing west to reach Asia, and they agreed to sponsor him. So, with their support, Columbus set sail on what would become a very famous voyage. He and his crew left Spain in August of 1492 with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa. The Nina was a small ship that was used for fishing. It was only about 50 feet long. The Pinta was a similar size, but the Santa was much larger at around 85 feet. This was important because the Santa was carrying all of their supplies. Without it, they wouldn't have been able to survive during their voyage. The goal of their journey was to reach Asia, specifically India. Back then, people in Europe really wanted to find a faster way to get there. Usually, they had to go around Africa, which took a while. But Columbus was convinced that if they sailed west across the Atlantic Ocean, they could get there quicker. Unfortunately, though, his ships weren't equipped for such a long journey. The Nina and the Pinta were supposed to be used for short trips, not months, at sea. But luckily, they had some backup. There was a bigger ship called the Santa Maria that was supposed to make sure they had enough supplies. There's just one problem, though. A storm hit, and it sank before they even reached the Americas. So now they're on these 3 ships with limited supplies. What are they going to do? Well, luckily for them, they had some pretty good sailors on board. They were able to navigate across the Atlantic Ocean using things like the stars and the currents. After about a month at sea, they finally reached land. But this is where things get a little weird. You see, the goal of this trip was to reach Asia, right? So when they landed, they should have seen India or China or something like that. But instead, they were actually in the Caribbean. Specifically, they landed on an island in the Bahamas. They thought they were in India, though, so they named the natives Indians. And honestly, they didn't realize they were in Asia until about a week later when they found some other islands. Still, they were pretty excited. They had made it to the Caribbean. That was exciting in its own right. So they explored around and found a bunch of new islands. They also claimed all of these islands for Spain. Technically, they didn't find any new continents, though. The Vikings had actually reached North America about 500 years earlier. But this is still considered an important time because it officially started the Age of Exploration. This was when European countries started exploring and conquering the New World. They were looking for things like gold and other resources, but they also wanted to spread Christianity. Of course, this wasn't great for the native populations. They were often killed or enslaved, and their land was taken from them. But that's a story for another video. Alright, let's get back to what happened next for Columbus. When he realized he wasn't in India, he was pretty bummed out. I mean, he had sailed across the Atlantic Ocean for months, and he wasn't where he wanted to be. Plus, they were running low on supplies, so he decided to head back to Spain. On the way back, one of his ships got wrecked, but luckily, everyone survived. He arrived back in Spain in March of 1493 with only one ship and a handful of crew members. You'd think he'd be a hero for finding all these new islands for Spain, right? Well, not exactly. You see, when he told the Spanish rulers what he had done, they didn't believe him. They thought he was crazy. I mean, how could he have possibly sailed all the way to the Caribbean? They didn't believe him at first, but eventually they came around. And that's when Columbus became famous. He was hailed as a hero and given the title of Admiral of the Ocean Seas. He actually went on 3 more voyages after this, but none of them were as successful. On his second voyage, he actually went to the Caribbean again, but this time he was looking for a water route to Asia. He never found one, but he did find some more islands. On his third voyage, he tried to sail around South America, but he got lost and ended up in present-day Jamaica. On his fourth and final voyage, he tried to sail to Asia again, but his ships were wrecked, and he spent his last days in jail. So why is Columbus famous then? I mean, he didn't really find what he was looking for, and he actually never made it to Asia. Well, it's because of what happened after he died. In the centuries after Columbus died, European countries started exploring and conquering the Americas. They were looking for gold and other resources, but they also wanted to spread Christianity. And because Columbus had been the first European to reach the Americas in modern times, he became known as the person who had opened up the New World to Europeans. Today, we celebrate Columbus Day in the United States and some other countries. It's a federal holiday in the US where we remember him for his voyage and for opening up the Americas to Europeans. Some people say we should uncelebrate Columbus Day anymore because of what happened to the native populations after he arrived. I can see both sides of that argument. On one hand, Columbus did help to open up the Americas to Europeans, and that led to a lot of trade and cultural exchange. On the other hand, the native populations were devastated by diseases brought over from Europe, and their land was taken from them. I'll let you decide what you think. Alright, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.